All right, so we're going to be working on our chapter 7 exercises here. This chapter is basically dealing with both exception handling and reading and writing files. Our primary focus is really reading and writing files. I'm going to start by doing a little bit of file management here. So I'm going to open up my file explorer. I am storing stuff out on my Google Drive, and I'm just going to do a little pre-arrangement of my folders so that things go more smoothly. So we are going into Unit 7 or Chapter 7. So I'm going to make a Unit 7 folder. And then we're going to be working on a number of exercises here. So we got 7.1, 7.2, 7.4, and 7.5. And I'm going to make separate folders for each one of those because we're going to be dealing with files, and I kind of want to just keep things isolated, right? I don't want to create a file and then maybe accidentally use the same file name in a different program and then overwrite the stuff I just did, that kind of thing. So we'll be creating individual folders that way. So I recommend that you proceed in this fashion if you're following along. All right, back over in my IDE here, I'm going to close all my active programs. The console over, kind of clear it out. And let's go look at the first instruction before I kind of build anything. So let me get those downloaded. And we're looking at the first exercise here, and it says, open a file with the name hello text. Store the message hello world in the file. Close the file. Open the same file again. Read the message into a string variable and print it. Right. So it's kind of a series of steps here. Now, there are a couple pieces to this that you kind of got to read between the lines on, right? Now, it says open a file with the name hello text, all right? It doesn't say create the file, right? It's just says open it, right? So in that folder that we just created, and I'm gonna, let's see if I can open up another tab here. Let's do it this way. It's kind of an interesting thing with Windows 11. They finally got smart and put tabs in their file window. I think it's pretty clever. So I'm going to go back to that folder I just created. Right, and I created one for this exercise. And then inside the folder, this is kind of like a file management and file handling issue here. So whether you're on a Mac or a PC, I know all of us here are on PCs, we want to just create a plain old text file and drop it in here. And the first thing I want you guys to do, and I don't know if you guys are on Windows 10 or if you're on Windows 11, if you're on Windows 11, which I'm hoping, I want you to go to the toolbar here and go to options, and you'll get this little folder options panel that appears. And I'm looking at the second tab here, and I'm looking for this particular entry. And you notice how it says hide extensions for known file types, right? And this is one of these little settings, and I think maybe we talked about this right at the beginning of the course, perhaps. I know with that when I'm teaching my web stuff, I hammer this really hard with my web students because web students often get confused. Like they'll create, like, for example, an HTML file, and then they'll add two extensions to it. So they'll call it index.html, and then when they actually look at it with the file extensions shown, they're like, oh, it's index.html.html. It's not what they thought it was. And this is kind of the fault really of our modern operating systems and how they're kind of dumbed down a little bit so that normal people can use them. So for example, I'm going to just flip this switch here just for a moment, and I'm going to just pull this off to the side. Inside the folder here, if I was to create a new file, it doesn't matter what kind it is, and just for the sake of it, I'm going to actually make like I don't know, a Microsoft Word document here. And it doesn't matter what it's called, but if you notice here, and I'm going to change to like a large icon, another thing that really shows me that it's a Word document is the icon. Or if I'm in detail view, the operating system recognizes, hey, it's a Microsoft Word document, but I don't see the file extension that actually is there, right? If I did a right click and then did a properties, right, it shows me that it's actually a docx file, right? And if you were to look at the whole path of it, right, um, you would actually see that this is really the name of the file with that .x at the end of it. Okay, so for normal people that use a computer, this is fine. Who cares, right? You named your file. I don't care if I can see the extension or not. I'm just making the document. After all. But if you're somebody that's learning how to be an IT professional, and I would maybe hope that you guys are, right? You need to be more in the know and more in control of your file system and know what your files really are, what the extensions are. It is important, right? So if I did the same thing, so we're going to be creating text files. So here's my example. If I want to create a text document, it's plain text, right? So go to new, choose text document, and I want to call one hello dot txt because that's what we're supposed to do, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm good. It's a text document. See, it's fine, right? No, it's not. Okay, so here's going back to this option panel and the view tab. When I uncheck this box now, you're going to notice that in reality, I have two file extensions now because the first one is just text. The real file extension was obscured from us. So now I have a file called hello text.txt, right? So when I go to call for it in my program, and I'm like, but I created the file, I saw it, see, and it doesn't come in, and you have an exception. That's why, right? Because you're really dealing with an extra .txt in there. Okay, so I actually have to like rename it to fix it. So I'm going to get rid of the first .txt. But that's my recommendation for anybody who's like kind of serious about being a IT person, right? You should at least be looking at your file extensions. This type of setting, if you're on a Mac, by the way, there's a setting like if you go to the preferences for Finder, which is the file managing program on a Macintosh, there is a little checkbox somewhere in their settings there to show the file extensions there. So Macs have them too. Macs have historically hidden them, but they are there. And I don't care which platform I'm on. I want to see mine. I don't care, right? Because I want to be a power user, not the normal user. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this Word document. We don't need that, but now we have a hello text file. And if I open this, right, and it's going to open up in the default Windows text editor, which is a program called Notepad. And you'll see it is blank, right? And I'm going to close this because we're going to open this file and change it. So I'm closing the file, and but it is here in my folder. Now I'm ready to code. So let's go back over to Spider and start to write the code for this. The ask is to, and you know what? I have the instructions right here. I'll just copy them in. Open a file with the name hello text, store the message hello world in the file, close the file, open the same file again, read the message into a string, and then print it. Okay, so all of that. All right, so first thing we do is we've created this new program. Let's do a save as and put it in the same folder as that text file. So I need to go up a folder level into Unit 7 and into the exercise 7.1 folder. Here's that hello text file. This will be called exercise 7_1. All right. So let's do this a couple of different ways, right? So first of all, I'm going to do this in a hard-coded fashion to begin with, right? Just to kind of demonstrate the concepts. And then we'll tweak it a little bit and change it to make it do the stuff that we want. So let's do this in the most primitive fashion first. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do, I'm not sure what would be what's the instruction here? Open a file, store the message. So we need to open a file in write mode, correct? So we have to open it in write mode. So I'm trying to think of like what's the best way to proceed here? If I'm going to open something in write mode and change it, what's the first step? Well, I think what makes a good plan here. This is kind of a convention that a lot of programmers use. So if you guys can flow with me here, I'm going to open it to change it. So I'm going to read it in and then I'm going to output it. So what a lot of programmers might do is call it like out file or something like that. I'm just going to call it out F. I'm going to open the file and there's going to be two parameters here. The first parameter is the name of the file. Right? So I'm just going to say hello dot txt. Right? We had a second parameter after a comma, which is, are we in read mode or are we in write mode? Okay, well, let's see. W, and I think we saw this in the Kahoot, right? The W is the write mode. So we're opening it in write mode. And then what we want to do is we want to take that file that is now stored here. So I want you to think about this. What this does is it opens up the file, goes into the operating system, opens the file, triggers it into edit mode, and puts it here. It puts it in a variable. Takes the whole file, puts it in a variable. Kind of cool, actually, right? Then we have a command that we can execute here, which is a write function, right? And then, oops, and that's it. That should be a dot. We're giving the write command. And then inside the parentheses that follow, we're going to add whatever stuff we want to add to it. So I can just hard code, for example, hello world, exclamation. Now I've opened the file, read it in write mode. I've written to it. And then what needs to happen is I need to close it. So I'm going to go out F, and then there's a command called close, or a function called close. So we open it, read it in, change it, close it, just like that. How do we know this worked? Right, so here's the thing. I'm going to run it as is, and I know that the program's not completely complete yet, but I'm going to run it as is and see, does this really change the file? All right, so hit the run button. Okay, I'm not sure because I'm not printing anything to the screen. So what you might want to do here is actually put in a print message and say, success, or file updated or something, something to that nature to give people a message. Now, I didn't do that. The program already ran. Now the thing to do is to go back to your file system and check it, right? So how do we know it changed? Well, I want you to look at first the timestamp. So it's 8:55. I just ran it. So at 8:54. So the file was updated at 8:54 a.m. just a short little while ago. And if I do open it, check it out, it's changed. So I was able to, via code, open the file, add some stuff to it, and then close it, and then, give an error message. Okay, so that's wonderful. But what if, I'm just kind of putting it out there, what if you have, that idiot user, and I apologize, or that not so bright person running it, right? And let's say they put in the wrong file name like this. And I'm going to run it. I want to show you what happens. And it says, file updated. Okay. Did that really happen? The print message comes up on the screen, but was the file really updated? All right, let's go back to the folder now and take a look. Oh my God, it created it. Isn't that weird, right? So it's not really failing, is it? Right? So this is pretty fascinating, actually, right? Because it's looking for something that isn't there, and it's not really opening it, necessarily. What open does is it goes, okay, well, if it's there, let's open it. If it's not, let's just create a new one. And if I open this one up, of course, that has hello world in it too, right? So this is kind of telling of how the tech works a little bit. Now let's kind of like keep ramping this up a little bit so you guys kind of get a feel here. What if I change this to an R, right? And then I went back to, hello text and try to run this. All right, now I get an error. We can call this an exception, basically. And what it's doing is it says, file on line 11, right? So whatever, we're trying to write to it, but it's not writable. Why? Because we opened it in read-only mode. Or what if I have a different file named hello 99, right? What if I do that? Because that file doesn't exist. Here's, right? And in this case, we're getting an exception that says no such file or directory, hello 99. Right? We already figured out that if we have it in write mode and the file doesn't exist, it just creates it. Right? But here, if we're trying to read it, okay, that creates a couple different issues here. So like what I'd like to demonstrate, just for the sake of demonstration here, and you don't necessarily have to keep it like this, by the way, is let's try handling the exception. So we're going to try all of this code, right? You notice what I did there? I highlighted all of it and hit my tab key, right, to input it. So we're going to try this code. If it works, great, it works. If it doesn't, then we put in an except block, and we're looking for, in this case, an input-output error, errors with reading the file in and out. And so we say IO error. And if we have one, we'll just have a simple message on the screen. So instead of getting this, which is horrifying to a user, right, we're going to say error file. No. And if you wanted, so I want you to think about this, you could put this in a loop and then let the person, if they didn't get it right the first time, like you could prompt them, try a different file name, right, to try again, right? All right, let's try this because we know this crashes. So let's see if it gives us the error message, right? So now it just says error file not found. Now, in this case, we're hard coding the file name. But if you were prompting the user, you could give them the opportunity at this point to try again. All right. I'm looking at the clock here. It is just about 9 o'clock. So we're going to stop the recording here. We'll call this part 1 of the chapter 7 exercises. We get back together next time. We'll pick up right here where we left off. So this video will end here.